Yeah.
The president talked about efforts at creating jobs and employment and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
All that I heard was that there was some scheme, some grants that were given to young people. They gave them skills and they also gave them grants to start businesses on their own.
Yeah.
But that comes directly against a very, or a rather harsh business environment where even strong businesses are folding up because of, power crisis. Have you been able to account for the successes or failures of these young people who had grants to go and start their own businesses and be self-employed?
My friend Asamoah, who initially talked about the colossal impact of the energy on businesses. Some are folding up, and the fact that some have not even gotten to their equilibrium and so on. I agree with the fact that the interest rates too are another pointer to the fact that it invariably affects the creation of businesses, even the maintenance of businesses. Talking about the grants that we've given, it's a whole package. And you give a grant to a young man, you train the fellow, you give the money to him, you assist him to set up. Remember that those grants were supposed to train young graduates who have just come out and who haven't got employment to be self-employed and also to employ other people within the community or within the areas that the grants have been set up. We do agree of the effects of the energy on businesses and so on and so on. We do agree.
Couldn't the grants have been put into generation and distribution of power so that there will be reliability? Then you can say that you have created the enabling environment for
the package and the money that has been contracted and even within our own sources to generate power or to ensure that we have efficient power is completely different from a grant that has been set aside to develop the skills.
No. I'm saying that in a total scheme of things, if you want people to start and grow businesses, the environment is key. And so if you have a huge deficit of a critical ingredient that would help businesses start and grow, then it makes sense that you want to fix that problem so that when they hit the ground running, they will be successful.
They go simultaneously with our attempt to fix the energy problem. And most of them might not need the quantum of energy that we need initially for the startup. They are undergoing training programs, sharpening their skills to be able to use the money.
Like the guy who made the lovely cufflinks that the president talked about. Well, I would assume that you need a lot of electric power to be able to melt metals and be able to do that.
You will not need electric power depending on the quantum of his the tools and raw materials at his disposal. He might need some amount of energy, and knowing very well that we have an energy problem, entrepreneurs are able to gauge the period they will have enough energy to be able to continue with whatever product that they would produce for the market there. Entrepreneurs have also come to realize that the power energy is affecting them. They are able to look at how sustainable that when the power is given to them by ECG, they can either use it for 5 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, and so on to be able to maximize you. Because the energy issue, I must say, but I must agree with him that it has been an issue that has confronted the government over the years since it started declining up to now. That even explains why deadlines are given and then they are not met, because as a government,
let's stay on employment a bit longer. Are you satisfied with the level of employment that you see around?
Certainly not, because government itself cannot employ the teeming numbers of the unemployed youth out there. It is for the private sector to absorb most of this teeming youth there. And
the private sector is on its knees.
Yeah, they are on this need because of these factors that government has recognized and given due attention to. And that is why one of the major issues, the energy sector, like my friend Asamoah talked about. And we all can see how government has been running around the globe to ensure that we stabilize the energy, not just for domestic consumption, but for our industries and then our firms to be able to be on their knees and then to work harder and then to be able to absorb the teeming unemployment. The government recognizes that unemployment is an issue that confronts it, and government is working hard to ensure that private enterprises get the needed push to ensure that they absorb the unemployment you've up there.
Okay.
But let me be quick to add that sometimes we don't just look at just the energy aspect that is affecting even the industries out there. We look at even the capacity of those industries out there to be able to even absorb whether the energy is stable or not. We look at that. We agree, on the other hand, that it leads to problems, especially even if the energy is inadequate. You understand?
Yeah.
But
energy is a big issue.
It's a big issue.
Exchange rates, interest rates, depreciation of all those things come together to make the business environment terrible.
Yeah, I agree.
So
these are big issues that confront the businessman in Ghana here, and for that matter, government recognizes that.
And what is government doing to fix that?
Certainly, the issues are.
The promises are there. Okay, we'll come there. But let's move on to we don't have much time, so let's do education very quickly. The president mentioned a lot of things, but the one that struck me was about the shoes. And he said that he picked one, little boy from a group of people, and they helped him to, wear his, sandals. And that was when he was speaking to the gains we have made on the education front. What is your take on education? If you want to react to this one, I give you 30 seconds. But your substantive question is about
education.
Education.
The thing here is this: government is getting into business. Government is not supposed to do business. Government is borrowing from the local banks at high interest rates, so the banks are borrowing to government. And private sector
is government using that money for business, or it's just consuming?
Consuming to service loans that they are borrowing money to pay interest on loans. They are borrowing money to pay loans that they've taken. They're borrowing money from banks, and you see the banks are now interested more in giving loans to the government than to give to private industry, because seriously speaking, he doesn't have to work. He just has to put the money in, buy the tea, whatever bills, sit back, cross his legs, and expect government to work and give him his money.
So the crowd are the same young men and women that they say that they are helping to.
I don't expect somebody to go to university and come out again and go and do another training for employment again. You go in the university to get training for employment.
No, so it doesn't work like that.
Well, that is debatable, but you make your point.
The idea here is this, that government should take its hands out of business.
Okay.
Rather create the environment where businessmen can access loans to create. Dr. Indum is employing over 18,000 people in Ghana today. If Dr. Indum and Group Indum decides to close up, the economy of this nation will collapse, taking into consideration banks like GN Bank and so on and so forth. So it takes innovative leadership. Innovative leadership to create a proper business environment. After all, it's the businesses in this country. And now the employment we have is people selling pure water on the streets, running behind cars in toll booths.
Don't underestimate that. You don't know how
let's go to education. I think you have made a point.
You underestimate those people in employment, they won't come to work.
Let me dovetail it into education, because you see those people, most of them stop school to do those things.
I can give you concrete examples.
Point well made. Point well made. But move on to education.
Make your point well grounded.
You are not the one. I'm not here to pamper you or to please you or to say what
Echo, you speak to our viewers and me.
At the end of the day, government is putting his nose where his nose doesn't belong. Right. That's the first one, an employment thing, and so on and so forth. Government is supposed to create the environment for businesses to thrive.
Echo, point well made. Let's move to education. Yes.
I've not seen any nation in this world become educated with illiterates before. Me, this school uniform idea, I don't even buy it, because it's not the school uniform that learns, it's the brain that learns. So if you are going to give children school uniform and think that it's even this one size fits all, they say there's a guy in Peking who has a pump store selling uniforms. So you get one person, everybody can wear. So you wear it from kindergarten to SSS. I mean, like I'm saying, it's not the uniform. It is a brain that is learning, not the uniform that is learning. These things, the president puts a sandal or something.
It's to motivate the young people to stay in school.
Those things for me are political gimmicks for people who may not even see reading between
the president said they have built a lot of schools. So if you find any little boy loitering around school hours and he says that he's waiting for his turn for the afternoon shift, tell that boy you are a liar. There's no afternoon shift anymore.
Talking about free compulsory basic education from kindergarten to SSS. He went to court on that issue, and wherever the verdict went to, we don't even know about. Education in this country is a right. It's not a privilege. It should be a right, because I'm saying there is no nation on this earth that develops with illiterates. The Germanys and I had a German friend who tells me that, look, you have a beautiful country. If we give you Germany for you people to go there and go and live for 5 years, and then we give you this place, you never get a visa to come back to this country. I said yes. He said, but
what does that mean? I'm
saying
that
a German guy said that if he gave Ghanaians, he collected all Ghanaians to Germany, and then brought all Germans to Ghana. After 5 years, they will turn Ghana around so much so that we will not even have visas to come back here. But what is going to annoy him is that when we go to Germany, we mess up everything. Because
the German told you that.
That's what he told me.
That may be
factories.
What I mean
is about education.
Entirely
the
true.
whole idea is about education.
Okay.
We educate to get into industry to develop our nation. What is the reason why people will go to school to come out, earn a living?
Do we still have? Do we still have schools under trees?
Yeah, we do. We went to Amenfi West. They're there. I have pictures of those things.
Schools under trees.
You see some of the schools. It's amazing that these are the structures where children are attending school. Okay. And that's what I'm saying that.
Now, the promise of 200 senior high schools was supposed to happen within 4 years.
Yes.
We have spoken for 3 years already.
Yes.
And we are looking at the next 12 months.
Yes.
Do you think that promise will be fulfilled?
The question I want to ask myself is, where are they say they built 123 of them.
So some of them are in various stages.
They should give us even
and the first one was a wonderful one at Gomwa
Otuam. It was a sympathetic classroom block. What I'm thinking is that they should give us the list of where all those 123 schools are, so that we can know, we can find out. That when you go to Abadwise, there's one there. You go to Tumetu, there's one there. You go to Woman No Good, there's one there. You go to Turumi, somewhere around this thing, Geji area there, there's one there.
What if at Turumi we haven't earmarked to build one or two?
How do you earmark not to build schools? You're supposed to build those schools, not only 250 schools. Yeah. You're supposed to build at least those schools in every part of Ghana.
No.
And why? Is it a special concession that some people can go to school, some cannot go to school?
At least we have more than 200 and...
so far, you have not listened. So far, not even 20 are completed. Not even 20 are completed.
I take it that you were not impressed with the president's account on education.
I'm saying that, yes, the question, you ask yourself, as we speak right now, those who are going to school, people have to look at the exam results we are getting from the SSS. People have to repeat. People are being failed en masse. People are not passing the examinations. Why? Because the teacher motivation itself is not there. Teachers are not being paid their salaries on time. Teacher trainees, their allowances have been taken away from them. I mean, there is no motivation for people to go out there and get it. And the kind of education we need for Ghana, which is going to become which is supposed to be a lower middle income.
No, the president is looking at the higher middle income.
Can you do higher middle income country when people are still singing Kokote? Where do you come from? I come
from. I'm going to ask him when we come back. Now, Asamoah, corruption. The president says it's not true that Ghana is the second most corrupt, nation, and that it's rather the case that they are fighting corruption, and because they put the lens on, corrupt practices, the vibrant media in our country picks it up, and that gives the impression or the perception that there's corruption all around. What is your take?
You see, I decided people are not briefing the president well.
Or maybe the president is involved in this, so he's closing his eye to it.
I can tell you that he's been briefed well because he has, batted down who was formerly an anti-corruption, officer at Transparency International.
My question is now, which of the corruption incidents was exposed by the president? Sada was exposed by journalists. Suba was exposed by journalists. NYEP was exposed by journalists. Okay, even indeed the National Health Insurance.
National Service.
National Service thing. It was the BNI that was doing their own thing, and there were people trying to stop them, so they leaked the thing for journalists, so to give them room to go and do what they did. It's not because the president directed anything.
He says there's no known yardstick. There's no known yardstick for us to measure corruption. So what we are saying is just perception.
This branding thing. It was taken from the oil resource. Do you know that? Money from the oil that was supposed to go for transport infrastructure was what was expended on this branding thing. Can you tell me that the Minister of Finance just got up and issued a check of 3.6 billion to that lady without cabinet approval? Can you believe that? That the Minister for Finance or the Minister for Transport can authorize money from the oil fund without approval from cabinet? And what kind of consideration went in for this branding to be done at such a huge cost? And the president come and you want me to believe the president doesn't know anything about it?
What about the DVLA one? Hold on. DVLA one.
Yes, was it the government that exposed it? It was a fight between the two companies that brought it into the media. And the questions were being asked. Okay? So, which of them? The one that they claim that they have sent to court, I'm telling you, will fall on his face flat. Do you know why? Because the coordinator don't have the power to sign more than 50,000 cedis contract. That contract was signed by the minister. That big fish who should have been brought and charged is walking scot-free. So why can't you tell me that Bukapele can be what do you call it? In prison because of that?
Do you think there's some government complicity and cover-up and so on and so forth when it comes to the corruption issue?
That is all there is in this matter. Look at the Woyemi case. But for the fortitude of Martin Amidu, the case would have been dead. Government was not willing to fight for the money to be retrieved. It is Martin Amidu who said it's daylight robbery and it is against the spirit of the NDC, and he was going to fight for it and went to court and got the court order. The same thing happened to Asofotun.
Government is not only the executive. Government includes the legislature, the judiciary, and of course
the legislature has no execution powers. The legislature only have an approval powers. The one who expends Ghana's money is John Dramani Mahama, the president.
They have a duty to check the executive.
They can only check after the expenditure has been done, as in the case of this branding thing.
Contracts go before them.
Contracts go before them, yes.
They are supposed to do due diligence and check value for money.
They do due diligence, but like the American thing, they ask the minister to go and bring alternatives, and all the alternatives, the power minister told them they had no choice but to allow them to go for the American.
Does the executive scratch the back of the legislature so they can have their way?
It's not by scratching their back. It's what the executive presents and the questions they ask and the answers that the executive bring that Parliament approves.
But clearly, if something is out of order, Parliament should be able to say that this is out of order and throw it out.
They can say it, but they cannot deal with the criminals. They cannot deal with it. Look at the case of what do you call it? This Woyome thing. You send Woyome to court, and the very persons, two persons who were involved, who claimed they were misled, were never sent to court to answer any question. And you tell me that you are serious fighting corruption? Look. Yes, it is not true that Ghana is the second most corrupt country in Africa. But if you look at the percentage point, 72% of Ghanaians think that corruption has gone up in this country. 72%. It was the second highest from
That is why the president is asking. President is saying that there is no known yardstick by which we measure this thing. So it's about your perception and my perception.
You see, the president is changing. During President Kufuor's time, when the GIA report came, we would drop one step down. What did they say? You were in this country. Did they say President Kufuor was corrupt?
Yes.
So
yeah, but they had a right to say so.
Good, so why don't you?
And that's why you also have a right to say so.
That's why we are saying it.
Okay. Now, so, the judicial scandal.
Yes.
has also brought to the fore the rot in the entire, governance system. And it's obviously added to the, perception. And that's why some analysts will say, don't isolate the executive, but look at the three arms of government if you are talking about corruption. And of course, people are making reference to the private sector as well. They say, well, it is the giver and the taker who come together to, collude and steal or misapply, public funds. And that, nobody is justified to stand outside and say that the executive is corrupt. What is your take?
If there are clear indications that the Ameri plant shows clearly that someone is going to make $190 million free money, and you come and tell me that we should leave the executive out of this, and in any case, when they are doing these opinion polls, they segment it. Last year, they said the Flagstaff House was also number one. It came after police. It's the people of Ghana.
Okay.
So they always segment it. It is the police, the executive, parliament, judiciary. They come in that ranking order. So we cannot say that the opinion poll just looked at one side. They look at all the sides. But all we're saying is that 72% of Ghanaians think that corruption is on the rise or has been increasing for the past 12 months. And that, when you put it on rankings, Ghanaians came second after South Africa. That's a fact.
Ameri would be a good place to begin when we return from the short break. You are watching Checkpoint, the last edition for the year 2015. Stay with us. We'll be back in a moment. For the year 2015, and we have been discussing the president's book to account for his stewardship so far, and we are moving to the energy sector, which has been critical for the year under review. Before we move to the energy sector, I'd like the two panelists, Honorable Timothy Atabuade, who has not had a go at the corruption, and Echo Jones to both have 30 seconds each to share their opinions on the corruption bit. And I'm going to be strict on the time because we are running out of time.
Yeah, the time is very important.
Yeah, so 30 seconds.
Yeah, just 30 seconds. You see, the issue of corruption.
If you like, you can tell us what you are doing to fight corruption and realistically.
As someone that knows my stand on corruption, just as all of us Ghanaians here must have a very strict stance on corruption.
You are not President Mahama.
Please, I beg you. You are interrupting. That's part of my 30 seconds.
I'm taking note of that.
15 already gone.
As someone must acknowledge that the President John Dramani Mahama is doing enough to fight corruption. Corruption issues are not issues that they are like mushrooms that grows overnight. You go and harvest and eat and be satisfied. Or they are like bread that you put yeast there, the food, and you go and roast it. Corruption issues are systematic, especially when they are institutionalized. And there's organized corruption. What we do is that you must get to the root of the matter and ensure that it is uprooted with all the chemotherapy that it needs to be uprooted. Second, the issue is that he's talking about the BNI doing its own thing in terms of the national service issue. Does the BNI work in isolation? It's an institution. Even the criminal department of the police can also investigate corruption. Yoko can investigate. Shira can investigate. The issue of JIDA, it was a ministerial committee that went into the investigation of the matter.
After Manasseh Azure's report, add that one. After Manasseh Azure,
we were in government. What did the investigations? We could have covered it. We did not cover.
You couldn't.
You could have. Please, allow me. We were in this country.
Please,
we were in this country when corruption by the Kufuor said that he will not investigate issues of corruption because it will destroy his government. And the corruption was as old as Addo. I don't want us to repeat this because we are moving forward. Whether it was exposed by Anas or not, the issue was not covered. We had worked on the issue. The issue has been sent to court. Members of an MP, a city MP, is being prosecuted. You cannot expect the president.
Are we going to get the money back?
You cannot. You know that we are retrieving some monies. Because you don't have time. We are retrieving some monies. If we were to deal with corruption, we would have dealt with it fully. But let me tell us some more. When we did the investigations, we realized that during your time, what you used the digital money for, you shredded all the documents. We couldn't see any document on the money. They shredded the documents when they were going out. To talk about the national service issue, when the BNI did it, who authorized the BNI to do investigations? Who did authorize the BNI?
So
it's the current matter involving the 3.6. The current issue involved the 3.6 for the rebranding of the bus. When the issue came up, I commended the minority for what they did, for the scrutiny they did and brought the issue up. I commended the minority leader, and I even said that, look, I was happy that the president, through the chief of staff, had ordered the attorney general to reappraise what went wrong, re-examine the issue, and bring out the facts for further discussion and digest.
Shouldn't we have mechanisms that detect these things by now? Why should we? Why should we only trace them
even
after
most of these issues that Samuel Jemfi is talking plenty here about, these are Auditor General reports. The Wyoming issue, for instance, is an Auditor General report.
I'm
understand? Now I'm coming to the issue of the solution.
If we have a national plan to fight corruption,
that is why the president has often called
the president has been
all of us
over and over again. That there's something called
all of us must be vigilant to ensure that when people within authority are corrupting, we should be able to identify and blow the whistle.
Okay, that'll be okay for now.
Even government, look at the NACAP recently. The government went and addressed on the issue of fighting corruption by Chirac, and a whole lot of policies government are put in place. And the issues of corruption, we must blow the whistle, we must show. You are talking about Manasseh Azuri. If Manasseh hadn't come out, we would have started investigating.
Your time is expired.
That's 4 minutes.
Your time is expired.
That is at your era, when corruption came, you said that you investigate.
That's from
you said you will investigate because you will not investigate because it will destroy your government.
That is 4 minutes. You see, what's happening is that corruption, NDC and NPP have colonized corruption as their own. So we're more, corruption. Yeah, corruption. We chop more than you. We stole more than you. You stole more than us. We are not looking for people who can tell us, the equalization. You are better criminals than we are, and you are much more dangerous thieves than we are. That is not what we want right now in this country. Our leader, Dr. Addo, is talking about incorruptible leadership. The reason why incorruptible leadership is that if we don't stop, we don't nip corruption in the bud as a national disease, and that's why I agree with the Honorable that it's not a partisan thing. You go to the chief's palace, you have to put something small in a cloth to go and give to a chami. You go to the police station, your case is not right. You still think that you have to meet the inspector so that you can tell him that you can do something. I remember Reverend Charles Pamabako put it, say, corruption is ye baby, my baby, ye baby. Do something for something to happen. Do something, And that thing, it comes from this, my brother, your bro, Abochi. That thing should stop. What we are doing is that we are eating the eggs that we are laying. We are supposed to hatch to bring out the new chickens for the future. We are eating them.
What are some of the mechanisms?
The issues of this sole sourcing thing. We should look at it very well. All governments use the sole sourcing method, but the sole sourcing is supposed to be done.
Supposed to be
during emergency situations. But now everybody is doing sole sourcing, whether it's emergency or not. This branding, was it an emergency? Is that what we needed? In the first place, there are companies in this country who are crying for...
It was an emergency in the eyes of the person who had the power to dispense.
No, but you see, there are companies who we could have actually, they could have paid for.
Even the coming of the buses, the manufacturer could have embossed this thing.
Whether it was embossing or not, for me, I don't really see the use of putting dead presidents and old presidents and current presidents' heads on buses. I see it simply as a propaganda ploy for which 3 million Ghana cedis was wasted. 6 million. Completely wasted. We have digicards under Group Hindu. When you go there, they will tell you how much one of that branding they can do for. and it's less than 2,000 cedis.
If Group Indum, if they had paid the man to you, he would have clapped.
Because Group Indum is an Digicat is an established.
Money, of course.
Yes, it's an established company.
I don't even blame the.
It's an established company.
But if you are supposed to do diligence and you don't do a break,
because all you guys did went and inflated prices so that you can get the money sum to do election 2016. Simplicity. The same way with this Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, Happy branding people. You go there, we can get something for $220 million. But because we have to look for a way where we can make some extra profit, we go for the so-called long-term thing. When we could have got something from General Electric at half the price.
It's not true.
Yeah, you see, and then when we talk about,
I think
when it was 400 for 3 years, $440 million.
The documents are there. When we talk about this, the president says that Ghana is not the most corrupt nation. So I think that we should have been number one, not number two.
We wouldn't have taken G's offer.
Well said. Now, as a emergency, you started the Ameri energy project. You smell fish there.
You see, if you remember, Addo in a speech ever told President Mahama to be looking at the cost of projects he's initiating, and that he suspects that they've been bloated. The government came and said that is not true. This Ameri thing.
Was he assuming that the president was not aware that?
Well, he assumes that. Okay. You see, for instance, these Chinese buses that was imported. If you go onto the website of the company, you want it landed in Ghana FOB, it do not cost you more than $70,000. Do you know how much Ghana is paying for it, for the loan?
No, tell us.
It was $200,000 a bus.
It's a loan.
So what interest?
Dollars per bus.
$200,000 per bus.
Why don't you sell your own cocoa and go to the website and pick a
You see, I'm saying that even if you were taking a loan, there is no, on dollar loan, the interest is not up to 2%. You see, if now that the, what do you call it, Federal Reserve has increased their thing to 4%, so maybe to go to 5%. 70,000 is how many percentage of 200,000? How many? Over 300%. What interest rate is that? This Ameri thing. You claim that we wanted the power as quickly as possible. The argument is that you wanted the Ameri plant to be in Ghana in 12 weeks. And that if we go and order from GE, it was going to take us 9 months. Okay? And the minister is becoming clear that he lied to Parliament. Because he claims that if we get it from GE, it was going to cost us $410 million. Okay? And that would take us 9 months. But if we want it as quickly as possible, Ameri was there to deliver it for us in 12 weeks for $550 million. Plus an operations and maintenance cost of $60 million a year for 5 years.
Okay? From the supplier.
No, we were going to pay an additional $60 million every year for the maintenance of it, apart from the $510 million. The $510 million is for the plant and installation.
The $60 million is for.
Okay.
The
$60 million
I'll give you opportunity. Don't worry. Let him make his point.
For operations and management of the thing. Plus the engineers that are going to manage the VR will have to house them and provide them with vehicles.
So the nation is being shortchanged. We are not getting value for money.
But you see, when the Norwegian newspaper published this in Europe, and in Europe, and it happens that Ameri was just a middleman. Ameri, when he secured a contract from Ghana, went to Greece and engaged a company called Mecta to provide the equipment, do the installation, and do the management for the 5 years. So,
do you blame them? They are global business people.
No,
they can come and take a contract and go and solve everything.
It is a public company. It is a public company. When there are issues like you must come clean. So Mecta came out and told his shareholders that no, the contract we have with Ameri is going to cost us $360 million for the 5 years.
Okay.
That is what Mecta is telling its shareholders. That the contract that we gave to Ameri for $510 million, okay, they are providing the generator, providing the installation and the management for 5 years at the cost of $360 million. Meanwhile, if you add the $60 million a year times 5 plus that one, Ghana is going to pay close to $600 million.
Let me ask you this. What is it that America could do in terms of sourcing these generators that GNPC, for instance, could not do?
Even VRA itself. GE is the supplier of most of VRA's equipment. So they have over 50 years working experience with GE. It is becoming evidently clear. That's why ASIP is challenging the minister to show the correspondence between the ministry and GE to show that the thing was going to cost $410 million, as he told Parliament.
Was Parliament misled? Do you believe that
Parliament was misled? Because Parliament asked the question that why don't we buy it? So they claim they went to GE, and GE says that if you want to buy it, it will cost you $410 million and to take you 9 months for delivery.
Is this the first time Parliament is being confronted with such a dicey issue? I'm assuming that over time they should be able to pursue some of these things beyond the ordinary. I am getting some grapevine, information that they might have been compromised.
I don't think that it was about compromise. One, they came that the thing must be delivered in 12 weeks. Relevant questions were asked, and when those questions are asked, you expect the minister, because he's speaking at the oath, to deliver whatever there is for him to deliver. And what he told Parliament was that GE, if they go with GE, we'll pay $410 million and it will take us 9 months. Meanwhile, we need the thing in 12 weeks. America says they can deliver in 12 weeks if we give them $510 million. Okay, so Parliament agreed. But now it is becoming abundantly clear that the minister never consulted GE, because it has been the challenge has been thrown to him to bring the correspondence between his ministry and GE, claiming that if they have done that, it will cost us $410 million.
So what is your suspicion? Where is
my suspicion is there. That's why I was telling you of the difference between $1.2 billion constructing 1,440 kilometers and $1.9 billion constructing 740 kilometers of roads. It is the padding of figures.
So someone is laughing all the way to the bank.
Absolutely. America is going to make over $190 million into their pockets, because the major contractor who is delivering the thing has told the whole world that it is going to cost him $360 million. And in the world of contracting, your profit margin should not exceed 25% of the total cost.
That is your view. Some people would get away with 100%, so long as they can get it.
Why not? If you allow yourself.
Yes, of course. So you cannot.
I'm saying that under fairness and looking at the fact that this is a country that is struggling, and that the people who we have entrusted our monies and fortunes into manage.
So your leaders should know that.
Are recklessly.
Your leaders should know that.
Which leaders should know that?
Your leaders, the power minister and so on and so forth should know that if somebody is rendering a service to you, they should be looking at around 25% interest and not 100% interest.
There should be value for money.
Okay.
But unfortunately, they are spending our money carelessly in abundance. That's why I challenged him that in the book, the green book that he's published, he should have
put the values there.
The values there for us to really know whether he's that
will be okay for now. Now, Honorable Atabwadi,
yeah.
You have been in the House of Parliament before. You have served on committees. For me, when I begin to connect the dots, I think that there could have been some effort to have Parliament quickly pass this thing. After all, agreement is agreement, contract is contract, and once they get to that stage, somebody will be laughing all the way to the bank. What do you know about this Ameri contract and all the issues that are being raised? They are clearly very, very, very pertinent and relevant questions that seem to have escaped MPs.
Yeah, I'm tempted to look at the issues and then look at what my friend Asamoah.
Please focus on the issue, so that we can benefit from
time.
Yes.
The issue is that one, the the document for the purchase of the 10 turbines from Ameri was laid in Parliament on 13th March. No, 3rd March. And then it was there in Parliament for 18 days, which was enough for members of the opposition or members of the Energy Committee to have gone and do due diligence. You could Google, you could do anything. These days, it is easy to get information and the right issues are done. And then the value for money issue is brought. Once the paper was laid in Parliament, then it was there for the past 18 days in Parliament. It was incumbent on the opposition, led at the minority leader, the minority spokesperson on energy, in this case is KT Amon. But what we heard was that KT Amon, when the due day came, he went and then seconded the motion and allowed the issues to pass on.
Is it true that when ministries, departments, and agencies have contracts before Parliament, they must look after members of the relevant committee well, so that they would also look after them? Is it true?
I don't understand your question. Don't push.
No. Simply, let me just
put it in.
Yeah. I'm saying that it's been alleged that members of Parliament, members of Parliament, need to be, looked after before they look after the business of Ghana.
No, we already looked after, because when we are paid our monies, when we go for committee sittings, we are paid allowance. What looked after again do we need? The issue is that it involves directly government dealings, whether private or even the public dealings. And you don't look after. You go to the committee meetings, issues are brought, then you discuss them dispassionately. You are allowed to say anything. Even once the issue is laid there, the public can send memos.
Apart from the sitting allowance.
go in the university to get training for employment.
No, so it doesn't work like that.
Well, that is debatable, but you make your point.
The idea here is this, that government should take its hands out of business.
Okay.
Rather create the environment where businessmen can access loans to create. Dr. Indum is employing over 18,000 people in Ghana today. If Dr. Indum and Group Indum decides to close up, the economy of this nation will collapse, taking into consideration banks like GN Bank and so on and so forth. So it takes innovative leadership, to create a proper business environment. After all, it's the businesses in this country. And now the employment we have is people selling pure water on the streets, running behind cars in toll booths.
Don't underestimate that. You don't know
how much they make. Let's go to education.
Yeah,
I think you have made a point.
You underestimate those people in employment, they won't come to work.
Let me dovetail it into education, because you see, those people, most of them stop school to do those things.
I can give you concrete examples.
Point well made. Point well made. Point well made. But move on to education.
Make your point well grounded.
You are not the one. I'm not here to pamper you or to please you or to say what
Echo, you speak to our viewers and me.
At the end of the day, government is putting his nose where his nose doesn't belong. Right. That's the first one, an employment thing, and so on and so forth. Government is supposed to create the environment for businesses to thrive.
Echo, point well made. Let's move to education. Yes.
I've not seen any nation in this world become educated with illiterates before. This school uniform idea, I don't even buy it, because it's not the school uniform that learns, it's the brain that learns. So if you are going to give children school uniform and think that is even this one size fits all, there's a guy in Peking who has a pump store selling uniforms. You get one person, everybody can wear. So you wear it from kindergarten to SSS.
I mean, that has confronted the government over the years since it started declining up to now. That even explains why deadlines are given and then they are not met, because let's stay
on employment a bit longer. Yeah. Are you satisfied with the level of employment that
certainly
you see around?
Certainly not, because government itself cannot employ the teeming numbers of the unemployed youth out there. It is for the private sector to absorb most of these teaming youth there, and
the private sector is on its knees.
Yeah, they are on its knees because of these factors that government has recognized and given due attention to, and that is why one of the major issues the energy sector, like my friend Asamoah talked about, and we all can see how government has been running around the globe to ensure that we stabilize the energy, not just for domestic consumption, but for our industries and then our firms to be able to be on their knees and then to work harder and then to be able to absorb the teeming unemployment. The government recognizes that unemployment is an issue that confronts it, and government is working hard to ensure that private enterprises get the needed push to ensure that they absorb the unemployment youth up there.
Okay.
But let me be quick to add that sometimes we don't just look at just the energy aspect that is affecting even the industries out there. We look at even the capacity of those industries out there to be able to even absorb whether the energy is stable or not. We look at that. We agree, on the other hand, that it leads to problems, especially even if the energy is inadequate. You understand?
Yeah.
But
energy is a big issue.
It's exchange rates. Exchange rates.
Yeah. The president talked about efforts at creating jobs and employment and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
All that I heard was that there was some scheme, some grants that were given to young people. They gave them skills and they also gave them grants to start businesses on their own. Yeah. But that comes directly against a very, or a rather harsh business environment where even strong businesses are folding up because of, power crisis. Have you been able to account for the successes or failures of these young people who had grants to go and start their own businesses and be self-employed?
My friend Asamoah, who initially talked about the colossal impact of the energy on businesses, some are folding up, and the fact that some have not even gotten to their equilibrium and so on. I agree with the fact that the interest rates too are another pointer to the fact that it invariably affects the creation of businesses, even the maintenance of businesses. Talking about the grants that we've given, it's a whole package. And you give a grant to a young man, you train the fellow, you give the money to him, you assist him to set up. Remember that those grants were supposed to train young graduates who have just come out and who haven't got employment to be self-employed, and also to employ other people within the community or within the areas that the grants have been set up. We do agree of the effects of the energy on businesses and so on and so on. We do agree.
Couldn't the grants have been put into generation and distribution of interest rates, depreciation of all those things come together to make the business environment terrible.
Yeah, I agree. So these are big issues that confront the businessman in Ghana here, and for that matter, government recognizes that.
And what is government doing to fix that?
Certainly, the issues are.
The promises are there. Okay, we'll come there. But let's move on to see. We don't have much time, so let's do education very quickly. The president mentioned a lot of things, but the one that struck me was about the shoes. And he said that he picked one little boy from a group of people, and helped him to wear his sandals, and that was when he was speaking to the gains we have made on the education front. What is your take on education? If you want to react to this one, I give you 30 seconds. But your substantive question is about education.
Well, the thing here is this. Government is getting into business. Government is not supposed to do business. Government is borrowing from the local banks at high interest rates, so the banks are borrowing to government. And private sector
is government using that money for business, or it's just consuming?
Use some of it consuming to service loans that they are borrowing money to pay interest on loans. They are borrowing money to pay loans that they've taken. They're borrowing money from banks, and you see the banks are now interested more in giving loans to the government than to give to private industry, because seriously speaking, he doesn't have to work. He just has to put the money in, buy the tea, whatever bills, sit back, cross his legs, and expect government to work and give him his money.
So the crowd are the same young men and women that they say that they are helping to.
I don't expect somebody to go to university and come out again and go and do another training for employment again.
Wow, so that there will be reliability. Then you can say that you have created the enabling environment for
the package and the money that has been contracted, and even within our own sources to generate power or to ensure that we have efficient power is completely different from a grant that has been set aside to develop the skills.
No. I'm saying that in a total scheme of things, if you want people to start and grow businesses, the environment is key. And so if you have a huge deficit of a critical ingredient that would help businesses start and grow, then it makes sense that you want to fix that problem, so that when they hit the ground running, they will be successful.
They go simultaneously with our attempt to fix the energy problem. And most of them might not need the quantum of energy that we need initially for the startup. They are undergoing training programs, sharpening their skills to be able to use the money.
Like the guy who made the lovely cufflinks that the president talked about. Well, I would assume that you need a lot of electric power to be able to melt metals and be able to do that.
Well, you will not need electric power, depending on the quantum of his the tools and raw materials at his disposal. He might need some amount of energy, and knowing very well that we have an energy problem, entrepreneurs are able to gauge the period they will have enough energy to be able to continue with whatever product that they would produce for the market there. Entrepreneurs have also come to realize that the power energy is affecting them. They are able to look at how sustainable that when the power is given to them by ECG, they can either use it for 5 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, and so on, to be able to maximize it. Because the energy issue, I must say, but I must agree with him that it has been an issue